Hey guys, I'm here with a recap review of episode 12 of the 100. This episode is called We Are Grounders Part 1, and it is part 1 of the season finale. So that means next week it is the season finale, and it came way too fast, but at least it's so good. Oh my gosh, this episode was so good. At first I was like, what if it's not that good? But this is one of those episodes where the whole time you're screaming at the TV move faster. What are you thinking? Oh my goodness, it was just driving me crazy. Just so much intense and so much to cover. I'm gonna save, in my opinion, what was the best. And to me, it was the arc. Last time I was like, I don't care what happens on the arc, but the last scene of the show was on the arc, and oh my gosh, it was great. So I will talk about that last. We will talk about what happened on Earth, and I have a gazillion notes. I'll show you. This is how crazy it was. I was like, okay, I don't want to miss anything when I talk about it. When we first come to Earth, the first thing we see is Raven and Jasper and Bellamy and everybody there working to build foxholes and mines and basically preparing for the grounders who they know are eventually going to attack. The downside with this the downside is that the thing with this is that Raven and Jasper are pretty much we need to go get Clark, we need to go get Monty, we need to go get Finn. And just like I said last time, Bellamy is they're gone, they're dead, we're not gonna go. We go out there and we're dead too. We need to worry what's best for the camp, and what's best for the camp is saving the people. And I can't believe that. As many times as everyone is helped him and with his sister, and I totally support Jasper. He even brought it up. There's a scene when Bellamy is oh, don't you think I want to go after them? And Jasper's but they would have went after you. And then he's you weren't really feeling this way when Octavia was kidnapped and lost out there. And so I was go Jasper, for bringing that up, because hey, he, when it was Octavia, his sister, he didn't care. But now that it's other people, he's they're dead. So, and then the other scene besides at the camp, the other things going on Earth is, of course, Clark. And the Clark is kidnapped, and it is by the regular grounders. I remember last time I thought, oh, maybe it's some mountain people, maybe it's some other people. But no, it was just Anya and her crew of people, and they had Clark tied up. Then another guy comes in named Tristan, another grounder, and he's coming up to Anya, I'm taking control, you didn't do what you were supposed to do, I'm gonna, basically clean up your mess. And he's getting ready to and the first thing I'm gonna do is kill Clark. We didn't say Clark, but kill your prisoner. And right when he's about to kill him, they see this fire, and they're oh, it's the reaping signal. And I'm the reaping, the reapers, what is this? Who are the reapers? Is another thing of people that, we don't know. There's so much going on in the ground that we don't know about. But so they're okay, we gotta go do this. And then he's so she goes and tells this masked person who I guess was supposed to have killed Finn. She's is the guy dead? And he's yeah. She's okay, well, I'll take care of her and then catch up with us. So we're oh my goodness. And the guy, he, snatches Clark and goes off. And, I don't know. I'm the type of person that I just know Clark's not dead, and I know Finn's not dead. And of course they weren't. But the mistake, what was even better about them not being dead is that it was Lincoln. Yes, Lincoln is not gone. Lincoln saved Finn and Clark. I was yes. But oh, it's so crazy. All the other episodes, it's been oh, Lincoln's to save the day, or somebody saves the day and they make it back to the camp and everything is okay. No, they do eventually make it back to the camp, but there's a detour. So they're running in the woods, and they get to these underground tunnel. And he's we got to go down there. Anya and them, they won't follow us. And they're kind of well, why not? He's oh, because the Reapers use these tunnels. Oh my gosh. The Reapers, they're so scary. Basically, I think the Reapers are cannibals. They had what I thought were dead bodies. They were in a cart and everything. And they're eating and fighting, and they just look real gross and scary. I'm guessing this is I don't know what the nuclear radiation has done to some of the population, but Lincoln basically sacrifices himself. He doesn't agree what his people are doing to, the 100. So he gives his journal and I think it's like his weapon to them, and it's like, this is for Octavia, give it to Octavia. Oh my god, I totally love Lincoln and Octavia. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna run this way and you guys get back and you tell them to leave. He's like, there's a map, there's an ocean, there's a map in my journal that leads to an ocean, there's a lady named Luna, go there, she's a friend, you can be safe. So he goes and he kills like this big, ugly looking Reaper guy and he runs off. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the last we see of him. And I know he's not dead. He can't be dead. I highly doubt they would kill him off screen and we wouldn't know. I mean, what was the point of bringing him back? So I know one day we will see more Lincoln Octavia. We just have to. But so Clark, oh my gosh, I was screaming at the screen. Like, Clark, she's all slow. She's like, wait. And she wants to see like the dead bodies in the cart. She's like, wait. And she pulls back. Oh, and he's alive. And this guy's all like skinny and had the markings on him. And he's like, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then a Reaper comes after them. And then, oh my gosh, I was just mad. I'm like, Clark, you were so stupid. You should have ran. But Finn, he pulled a Clark move from last episode and he like beats the guy in the head with a rock. And then Clark, oh, come on, we got to go. They're coming back this way. Now she wants to rush. And then they leave and they hear an explosion when they're trying to make their way back to camp. So let's get back to camp. Oh my goodness. So Murphy, he's at camp and he smothers the poor guy who got shot in an arrow with an arrow last episode. And while he's killing him, Jasper is coming down the ladder and he's like, oh my goodness. And they kind of like hesitate, like, oh, okay, and then both rush for a gun. But of course, Murphy gets it and Murphy holds Jasper captive. And because Jasper kind of had like the walkie-talkie pressed in his pocket to kind of like let Bellamy knows something was going down, and Murphy freaked, closes the door on their drop ship and holds him captive. Bellamy, being the new hero, goes and takes his place. Like, I thought that was really good. That was really nice because like Jasper's been through way too much. Remember when he was the first person who got impaled with the sphere and stuff? And I just really felt bad for Jasper. So I was happy that Bellamy took his place. And of course we know Bellamy's not going to die, but it was still pretty intense. He has him in there, but he also knows that Raven was working on getting in through a back panel and Jasper goes with her and she's working on the wires, and that took like up until the last minute to get it to work, but to open up the doors, and she gets shocked with the sparks, and Murphy hears it and then he like shoots down at the floor, and Bellamy tries to take that time to go and like fight him, but then he kicks the chair underneath Bellamy because he had Bellamy hung up on a makeshift noose with a seatbelt. So Bellamy's sitting there like strangling and everything and still trying to fight for his life, but Raven manages to get the door open, and Murphy freaks, runs upstairs and locks himself up in there, and eventually uses some gunpowder to blow a hole in the upstairs area and escape. Now Jasper and Bellamy get up there and they see him running, and Jasper's like, should we go after him? And Bellamy's like, no, pretty much, the grounders will take care of them. We got more important things to do. And then, oh my gosh, I think this was like a really good touching scene. And Jasper like has tears in his eyes. And he goes and he hugs Bellamy and he's just like, thank you. And I was like, oh, it was so touching. And then he tells him, he goes, long way from whatever the hell you want. Because if you guys remember, like in the first episode, or not first episode, but in the beginning of the season when Bellamy took over and like, we could do whatever the hell we want, we don't care and stuff. And I just like that. Like, that's like just showing how much Bellamy has changed to become like such a strong leader over the course of the season. And not that only has he changed, but everybody else sees it in them too. And like Jasper appreciated that, and they became close. So after that, Bellamy's like, you know what? we're going to go, me and you, 2-man gun, we're going to go look for Clark, Finn, and Monty. He's like, we're not going to just leave them out there. You were right. We need to go, find each other, everybody's family or something. He said some kind of like, little catchy phrase. But of course, they don't have to, because that's when Clark and Finn are coming to the camp, because the explosion they heard was Murphy blowing the hole. So they come back, and Clark is basically like, we need to go. We need to get out of here now. And everybody's like, where's Monty? They're like, what? Monty's gone. So nope, we still don't know what happened to Monty. Oh, I don't know. And that was like the best part of last episode. I'm like, what did Monty see? Well, we don't know what Monty saw. So I'm hoping that next episode, I just hope we find out a little bit more about what happened to Monty before the season finale. Well, before the show ends. And then, we have to wait. So I hope it's not like we just never know until next season, basically. But so Clark's like, we gotta go. And then if you watch any preview clips or whatever, and you saw Bellamy making like a "we're the grounders now" type speech, well, this is when he, makes that speech, "We're the grounders, we need to stay." And Clark is like, yeah, you're right, this is our home, we built this, and this might be the safest place, but we gotta go. And I kind of understand, like, Clark, she's like, we could see a lot of worse things, but if we stay here, we are going to die. She's like, everyone get your stuff, whatever you can hold, we're leaving. And they're like, well, where are we going to go? And they say that there's an ocean, blah, blah, blah. And Octavia's like, oh, you guys been talking to Lincoln. And she's like, well, where's Lincoln? What happened? And Finn hands her Lincoln's diary and journal and sword. And so she's kind of just like, does this mean he's dead? We didn't really get to see too much of her reaction. Oh, one thing I forgot, because that's pretty much everything that happened for that part with the 100 on the ground, except for, like, I forgot to say when Finn confesses his love for Clark, which I'm like, because I want Clark with Bellamy, but I just don't get him. Oh, I'm so in love with Clark, but I was still sleeping with my girlfriend as soon as she came down, so I just don't really buy into his feelings for Clark. I don't think they're that genuine. But, Clark was like, no, you broke my heart. I just can't right now. And we know Clark probably still has feelings for him, but I really like that she stood up for herself and wasn't just, oh, it's okay that, you were two-timing me as soon as I met you. So that's pretty much, that's what happened with the 100. Then there's the Ark. There was only like a few scenes with the Ark. When we first get on the Ark, Jaha makes the announcement that after 51 hours, they will no longer be able to, the Ark will no longer be able to sustain life. And he basically says, everybody, don't worry about rations. Whatever we have left is everyone's, and just, make your peace during these next few hours, because this is it. And Kane is like, no, I can't just sit here and not do nothing. There's got to be another way. And Jaha's like, well, that's how you want to spend your last hours. Go ahead. But I'm going to be sitting there with some scotch and family. And then Clark's mom, Abby, she kind of has like a breakdown. Like, she goes and is working on, I guess, a patient that got injured during the explosion, and it's her and her assistant Jackson. But she loses the patient, and the patient's like a young girl with blonde hair, and I'm pretty sure it just reminded her of Clark. So she was just, she had a breakdown. Oh, I'll never get to say sorry. I'll never get to make up to her, and just different things like that. And Jackson was like, no, your daughter, she's strong-willed, and she loves you, and things like that. But just basically Abby coming to terms with that they're gonna die. And then we see Jaha with his scotch, and he's watching home videos, and then he kind of has like a aha moment. It's a home video of Clark and Wells. I can't even think of his name because it's been so long. Basically, they were talking about how the thrusters and something else keep the Ark floating and creates its own gravity. And then the next scene, he walks in on Kane and I think Abby and everybody in there just, brainstorming nothing because there's nothing they can do. And then he's like, oh my gosh, this is when the music starts getting all intense, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, this was so intense. It was such a good scene. Like, even though it was like kind of cheesy, you knew what it was going to happen, but it was still really good. Like, it reminds me of when Independence Day, It reminds me of Independence Day when Jeff Goldblum is talking to his dad, and he gets the idea when the dad's talking about recycling the can and the virus and everything. And he's like, wait, say that again. That's kind of how like this whole thing came about, with him watching the videos and getting the idea or whatever. But he goes, how about, have you guys tried not saving the ark? And everybody's like, what are you talking about? And then he's like, tell me what would happen if we did this with the thrusters. And then the guy starts telling him, well, eventually all the different pieces would break apart. And then, just basically 95% of the whole ark will be destroyed on its way down to Earth. And then he goes, well, are you smart enough to pinpoint the 5% that won't be destroyed? And, Kane's like, are we really going to do this? And he's like, well, I say we got two things: to die here in space or probably die trying to get to the ground. And, I just love the excitement and the hope in Kane's eyes, and everyone else is just kind of hesitant, like, I don't want to get too excited. And then, sorry, and then Jaha looks at Abby and he's like, what do you say, Abby? Are you ready to go see your daughter again? And I'm like, yes, that was like so exciting to me. Like, just, it was like a really well put together scene. The music was all intense and everybody's like looking at each other, and that was my favorite scene. And that was, like I said, not a lot happened on the arc, but I liked it. Like, I felt like that was really good. That was the best scene that I've ever seen on the arc. Like, it was just intense and it had hope and a little bit of like, oh yeah, okay, they're gonna make it. So I know they're gonna make it to Earth. Like, they're all not gonna die. Like, that would be a shocker to me. I mean, I would be just jaw on the ground if they don't survive. I know they're gonna survive. But so that is this episode. The preview was just a real quick, but from what I can tell, even though Clark was like, come on, pack up your bags, leaving, it looks like they still end up fighting, and it was nighttime. And from the looks of it, I think they were still at camp. So I don't think they get too far from camp and probably end up having to retreat back. That's just my guess. And that's all they showed. They didn't show us anything from the arc. Yeah, that was all we saw. It was just a bunch of shooting and chaos. So next episode is going to be absolutely crazy and I can't wait. I'm just sad that it's going to be the last episode, and I'm not sure. I think the show comes back in the fall. I hope so. I hope we don't really have to wait like until like next year for another season. I hope next season is longer. But all right, guys, tell me what you thought of this episode, any expectations for next episode, and just what are your whole ideas of how this is going to end and what it means for next season. In the meantime, I will put my Beamly, my Instagram, and my Tumblr links in the description. All right, guys, thanks for watching.